New South Wales. First of all, I note that there's been significant support already provided into New South Wales, and it'll keep flowing. Some $290 million has already gone out the door to support some 300 and just over 50,000 people across Sydney and New South Wales to keep them going through this lockdown. Those people in Sydney and across New South Wales who have already registered for that payment now, that payment will keep coming week after week after week for as long as the lockdown goes. You do not have to go back and reapply for that payment. It is a recurring payment now, and you can rely on that continuing to support you. If you become in need of that payment, you can go and apply for it going forward. If you're not receiving it now, but you find yourself in a situation where you need it going forward, you can go and make that application. I should also note in Victoria, we have had some 25,000 claims submitted because theirs started today for those COVID disaster payments. At midday, they'd answered approximately 3,500 calls, and what is positive is that in the same way we've been able to cope with that demand, as I said, already supporting over 350,000 people in Sydney, then we're confident that that will continue for people in Victoria, and next week that process will start for those in South Australia. In New South Wales, we discussed today the need to continue to suppress the virus to get us back to that point of removing community transmission infectious in the community of those cases. The goal has not changed. Suppression is the primary tool to achieve that, and vaccines can help that. To that end, we discussed and will be confirming over the next 24 hours the ability for, in New South Wales, in their state vaccine centres, for them to do greater amounts of first doses by staying within the medical advice, the ATAGI advice, which says that second doses of Pfizer can be extended out to 6 weeks. So that is an existing regulation, it is an existing approval, is an existing medical advice. So to increase the amount of first doses that can be delivered, maximising greater the supply we have available, then we're working to put that in place in New South Wales because of the situation that exists there. And that is important to be able to achieve. In the same way, we've had the flexibility to bring forward AstraZeneca second doses. Now, that is especially important for all of the population, but in particular, those who are elderly, who I've said are most at risk during a COVID outbreak. So I'm very keen to ensure that if you haven't had your second dose, if it's been 4 weeks, then please book yourself in for that second dose so you can protect yourself in the midst of this particular outbreak, and we'd encourage you to do that. There was also widespread agreement, there was agreement amongst the National Cabinet that we need to continue to lean in to AstraZeneca, particularly in New South Wales, supporting that both through the pharmacies, as I announced yesterday, the GPs, and also through the state-based clinics. Those vaccines are available to you in all those clinics. It is licensed, it is approved for all ages with informed consent for those under the age of 60. And we'd encourage you to do that because if you're vaccinated, you're less likely to transmit. You're less likely to get the virus yourself. You're less likely to get serious disease. You're less likely to be in hospital, and you're less likely to suffer a fatality. So whether it's AstraZeneca or whether it is the Pfizer vaccine, both of those are important. And as Kyle Sandilands said, get vax baby. That's what we need in New South Wales. That's what we need indeed across the country. And we're putting those supports in place. Where there is a potential to put more vaccines into New South Wales, even beyond what we're already doing, well, of course, we will seek to do that. But we are not going to disrupt the vaccination program around the rest of the country. That vaccination program is going and is hitting as it marks, and we want that to continue. The Delta strain of the virus is obviously very fast transmitting, and we need all the other states and territories to be continuing to get up to the mark, the marks that we need to set for ourselves to ensure we can get this job done this year. Thanks for your attention.
Prime Minister, what would